kind of save face is like, thanks for retracting it. Sorry I picked on you. Just because it seems like if you really look at it, I didn't see what he did as overly wrong. But again, in this world of hypersensitivity to anything, you have to be careful in the media. That's why it's so risky that the three of us do this show, because constantly we're putting stuff out there that is just, could end other people's careers.
Well, I guess when your friends came by and say, hey, I didn't like what you had to say about me the other day.
That's the story you need to go with.
But I mean, in all good fun, I mean, because it is frustrating. And I don't know if I would be able to hold back. I mean, I probably would have been a bit more brutal than Dara was. And it's actually why I wanted it to be the Rutrow, because I can kind of see where Dara was coming from. MIT put out this piece of data, obviously without enough review, right? To take care that this is MIT putting this data out. So there is an entire section of the world that will just look at it and say, yep, this is right, everything else is wrong.
Well, and if it's
wrong.
Hi, Tim.
the voice of the State University of New Jersey, Rutgers, chimes in on the topics.
By the way, these are purely my opinions. The State University of New Jersey can neither endorses nor holds the same values, and frequently distances themselves immediately.
Tim said, "What? Oh no. Oh hell no." Hi, Mr. Tim.
Hi guys, sorry for being a few minutes late, but
we're talking about Dara's little oopsie tweet, which kind of harkened back to an earlier era at Uber. We're talking about when he looked at the MIT the bad data. Now, what's interesting is on kind of harken back to the Focusrite little email bucket that goes back and forth with all the Focusrite analysts. Folks were jumping all over it because they're like, wait a second, Dara is all over email research quality. I mean, he's really got an eye for this stuff and methodology, and they were in the right. And actually, I just posted the revised study. I mean, basically the guy came back at MIT and goes, our numbers were wrong. It's closer to like $10 an hour. So oops by a factor of 2.5. Basically the guy came back at whatever they were off. Not so good, right? But again, the way he handled it was by a factor of
I mean, there's two different factors here.
Not so good, right?
Which it's nuanced and complicated. And unfortunately, in the digital space, neither of those things are easy, right? So, Dara was completely correct in his estimation of what was going on with the MIT thing. They pulled the study, they pulled it back, so that's good.
And fixed it quick.
Yeah.
Based on Uber's numbers, they went, wow, we didn't look at that stuff, and
that's good.
We didn't really have numbers. Based on Uber's
right. At the same time, he was completely wrong. Because there's a way to do it, especially with the brand reputation that Uber has, and that's I think it was a misstep, in that regard. I can't remember the brand reputation. I'm not going to get the quote exactly right. There's a quote. Politics or something along those lines, which is if you're explaining, you're losing. I can't remember the right. Like people have to get it immediately.
And I think
people get it immediately is that Dara just did what Travis was always famous for, of punching down and doing it in kind of dick way.
And I think
for lack of term,
which is a rare misstep for him. At least
rare
and I think it speaks partly to the culture of the companies that at Expedia, coming out of Microsoft, right, being birthed by Microsoft, and kind of the rigor and strict control they had over things. They always had that very, very well structured. I mean, everybody at Expedia. I mean, you meet somebody at a cocktail party and bring up a subject that maybe they shouldn't be talking about. They aren't talking about it, generally speaking. I mean, there may be an individual here or there who's like that person, but as an organization, organization. They are pretty much on the company line, and with the program, and things are getting rolled through legal or investor relations or PR or whoever needs to. Let's look at Google. Similar, pretty highly structured company when it comes to dealing with that stuff. And here Dara, I don't know, without those constraints, maybe just kind of went, hey, here's what we're doing. And he could have said it so many other ways, like, hey, MIT, I think you need to check your math. Right? Here's our assessment. Here's what we're doing. And he could have said it so many other ways, like,
or MIT, we have a pretty strong peer review process here at Uber.
Exactly.
But I'd be happy to share our design. We have a pretty strong peer review prior to public finding. That would have, if we wanted to be kitschy and put a jab, that wouldn't have, I don't think it would have been our design. I think it would have been different. I think we would have been talking about the Rut-Row backwards. We'd be talking about MIT, Rut-Row, and how Dara put MIT in their spot.
I think this also is slightly indicative of the cultural shift for us. And I'm not trying to go old school to new culture or something, but I think this is the social impact on cultural identity of corporations, where the great companies and great leaderships of companies, there was a symbiotic representation that they accepted the mantle of representation, that their individuality blended with what they represent. And so when you had somebody speak from IBM, they stood at the pulpit almost of what IBM represented, and MIT, and the expectations of what those are. But now that we allow corporations to have personalities and identities, and we demand that the people that lead them be as much like us as anybody else, it's an unfair assessment for them. They're representing thousands of employees. They're representing a investment of hundreds, if not thousands, of people beyond that. They should pause and not be themselves as quickly as they should be those that represent what their leadership.
Well, especially when your corporate culture has been a huge part of your problem, there should be a pause.
This could have been a leading move the other way.
I'm going to say the opposite. If this was an MIT study on Wendy's, Wendy's would have trolled the heck out of MIT. Everyone's talked about how Wendy's is fantastic, because it is. Same thing with KFC. Why are the food the heck out of really good at personality, by the way? Because I don't know if you've seen KFC's flub up where one of their locations ran out of chicken. And so
oh no, that was like all of the UK. All of the UK.
And so they had like a box of chicken, but instead of saying, and it was a big ad they ran, but instead of it being KFC, it was FCK. And then it was just, we messed up. You heard of it.
I don't think we're being different. I think we're saying the same thing. That is the representation of the company. I'm not against the company having that identity.
But when you're Uber, who has been this whole time.
Well, and that's the key right there. Ed, I agree unequivocally with what you just said.
Who has been
certain brands can get away with saying certain things in certain ways
because they have good equity.
Because they've got good equity.
Some equity.
Uber's running on fumes.
Certain brands, right? And what people who don't follow this as closely as we do just here's another Uber CEO being a dick, just like the last Uber CEO. I mean, that's the difference.
Instead of defining the difference, he created the commonality.
He created the commonality. That's right.
So I feel bad that it happened to him because he's a good dude.
And I think
at the same time, it's hard to feel bad.
And he probably was.
It's hard to feel bad for someone who's soon to be a billionaire. I feel sad that it happened to him. He's going to go to sleep on his giant bed of money.
And he probably was.
It's hard to feel bad for someone who's
This is one of our digressions, one of our world famous digressions. I had a conversation with the CEO of a company once upon a time about a guy who preceded them in the role. And basically, the company pretty heavily. And as we were having this discussion, I said, how does this guy sleep at night? And his follow, the guy who followed him went, company, I'm betting pretty well, actually. I'm betting pretty comfortably.
If you are free from ethics and
the guy who followed him went,
boy, you probably sleep really great. Because it's not bothering you.
Comfortably. Yeah, exactly.
If you are free from
all right.
You know what they say, if you can fake sincerity, you've got it.
Boy, you probably sleep really great.
So I thought, are we done with the rut row since besides Lauren's rut row? Tim, did you catch that?
They say, if you can fake
look at Lauren's face.
I saw that hand. I didn't want to call attention to it, but dude, what the hell happened?
Started the show with it. I'm like, look at Lauren's face.
Mikhail Gorbachev's like wine spot.
Wine spot only a little larger.
Prior to Lauren telling them and us telling you our theory, you need to create a theory on what happened to Lauren's face.
Wine spot. I assume that he got too close to the one true source of knowledge.
You need to create a theory on what happened.
And it's sort of like looking into the arc of the eye. He closed his eyes at the last minute, which is why he didn't.
At the last minute, melt away. Yes, like
right, but Lauren is always seeking. Lauren is always seeking the one true source of knowledge. This is what happens when you fly a little too.
I like that story.
That was much better.
Yeah,
I think there's a different story. It happened in New York. It was after the Adrian Award. He had witnessed, the 25 top minds. He had a couple too many. He had had a couple too many drinks. He went to a tattoo parlor, and he asked them to put. He gave the list. Well, no. He wanted Tammy. He wanted Tammy on there, but they messed up and gave him Tim. So he had to have it lasered off. They're going to try again.
The only problem with that story, Robert, is it would be much paler a tattoo. My skin tone is affectionately referred to as pallor. The problem with that story, Robert, is it would be much paler a tattoo.
Well, my theory was that Lauren has been struck by lightning for a time.
For a seventh time, yeah. That I got struck by lightning, yes. I like Robert's original one, which was I had intense contract negotiations. And, it just got a little...
Speaking as a guy from New Jersey, I'm familiar with that level of contract negotiation.
I like Robert's original one, which was contract negotiations.
That's a really nice digital marketing agency you got there. Shame if something happens to you with that level.
Fires happen all the time. Damn, if you're shitting. Yeah. No, I like
really nice digital marketing.
Robert's idea that my dog brings too much up. Because what happened was my little black puppy lived in the dark, and I walked on the sidewalk, decided to wrap him around my legs with a leash. And because I didn't want to go the flashlight nor the leash holder, I decided to face plant on the sidewalk. So
dogs learn these things too. There's been some research.
I've caught them. And because I didn't want to go the flashlight.
All right, back to adding value to people.
Yes, to husband.
I like Robert's topic about how Marriott stands alone because it's moved to cut meeting value to people.
Yeah,
I thought that was juicy. I like Robert's topic
let me
about how
post
Marriott
this.
stands alone.
So the issue here is when people say the hotel industry is similar to the airline industry, this is where you see a dramatic difference. So when the airline industry introduces things like bag fees or whatever, some distasteful thing like cutting commissions, something that might be a little bit controversial, the others kind of fall into line. But again, that's a little bit of a different situation where airlines control origin, destination pairs, and frequencies and
monopolies. I mean, what?
But again, well, oligopolies. Airlines control origin, destination. But in that situation, so Marriott goes out and I think took one page of the airline playbook and said, okay, we're going to cut commissions on group business, and I think they sort of thought, well, yeah, all the other guys in the room would like this to probably happen, and so they made the move, and nobody else did. They were left all by themselves. So my question is, did they actually have some back channel conversations? Which of course, would be highly. Nobody else did. Sort of thing to do something like this. But did they actually have those, and the other guys baited them into it, said, "Oh yeah, we're right behind you, go for it." Which of course, and then
if that's the story, that's amazing. I would love that so much.
I don't know. That's option one. Option two is Marriott. Oh yeah, we are so big, they will follow, and got ego going.
Because in those big box kind of generic branded properties that are group houses, business is really important. Think about some of the biggest assets of Marriott, Hilton, and Hyatt, and their gigantic group houses.
Absolutely.
I don't know if you want to bite the hand that feeds you. Think about some of the. And is it my understanding too that the group commissions weren't overly gigantic group house gougy anyways, were they? I don't know if you want to bite the hand that. Right. I mean,
like 10%.
Think about some. So, is it my understanding?
Yeah. So they looked at the
cut.
I'm an Occam's razor kind of guy. As fun as the conspiracy theory one is, I doubt that's what that seems unlikely to me. It's much easier explained by they thought they had a good idea. They're in a position right now where they're pushing back on any place where they're spending money on commissions and are able to do so, and figured, hey, here's another place we spend a lot of money on commissions, so why don't we? They're in a position right now where what's the old line? Never ascribe to malice that which can be more adequately summed up by their competence. We spend a lot of money on.
So explains most of everything he does.
So let me recap this. Tim Peters says that Marriott was just incompetent in his decision. I just want to make sure I'm understanding what. Okay.
Well, I mean, look, there's only two possible options. There's only three possible options, right? One is they were dumb. One is they were evil, and one is they were right. And I suspect that if they weren't right, it's less likely that they were evil than they were dumb, right? One is they were dumb. I have screwed up many times in my career. They were right. And I suspect, right, I've screwed up a lot of times. Now they might
speaking of Tim's career cycle, I had the most interesting conversation yesterday with someone who doesn't know I know Tim Peter. And so this conversation I had, his problem that someone who does intersects with your earlier career has nothing to do with it. So this was a hotel owner who had a budget brand problem that turned out to be, and I won't say who because that's mean. So in a time frame where Tim was involved in that budget brand flag,
which, by the way, for the record, was 11 years ago. So I mean,
right, but still, whatever. In a time frame. But so here's the funny: he's like, I'm now with this flag that I'm with because it's more of a membership because I got really screwed by my old budget brand flag and did things like really bad for hotel owners, made some bad decisions and stuff, which I wouldn't have instantly thought of Tim Peter for that. He was explaining to me the process he's going through to improve his property and where his sources of data on how he's doing this. First, he mentioned Stuart Butler, who he knows I know because Stuart recommended he talk to me. And he's like, yeah, I love their podcast, the Fuel podcast, and it's great. And then, I'm giving him some advice on where to get started on the marketing side. And he's like, man, you sound a lot like this other great podcast I listen to, Tim Peter. And he's like, yeah, I love their podcast, the Fuel podcast. And I'm like, wow, great. And then, so 11-year-old Tim was part of the problem. Marketing side. 11 years ago, Tim was part of the problem. Modern Tim is part of the solution. And I'm like, wow. So it's the circle of life, Tim Peter.
Well, that's very nice to hear. I have to tell a funny story that might risk sounding a little defensive, but it goes back to the evil versus incompetence. So in my Wyndham days, we screwed something up badly bad. And I called the master franchisee for Canada for one of our brands, who basically fall on my sword because he was super bad, right? And I, I called him up and I said, I just want to let you know I take full responsibility for this, and blah, blah, blah. And he let out this like little sigh, a very, very brief sigh, and said, he said, that's a very gracious thing to do for all the other people who were in the room. And he let out this like little sigh, a very, very brief sigh. And I was like, oh. Yeah, he was like, he said, I accept your apology, etc. I'd love to know what you're going to do to fix it. I also am fully aware, I know yourself. There's no way you made this decision all by yourself. I accept your apology. And the reality was, we weren't evil. We were just incompetent. We thought X.
It happens.
And our customer. And there was, and it was a great lesson in group thing, right? Because we all agreed there's no way this is a problem. Because we all knew. And there was a great lesson. But it was such a great line. That has stuck with me. That's got to be
that's actually
ago. That has stuck with me for a long time.
That's sorry, it was just funny.
It was such a great line. That has stuck with me.
And then I actually was like, that's actually a Catch-Up Web show by chance.
Stuck with me for a long
No, but that sounds really interesting. I'm like, oh, okay. Tim Peters, Stuart Butler, it was just Robert Cole and Lauren Gray and myself are on a web show. It's not nearly as high quality as the podcast that sounds really interesting. Okay, the first 20 minutes is usually somewhat structured and valuable. Lauren Gray and myself are on a web show.
Speaking to that end, Tim, I always applaud your logic process. I mean, for me, my first reaction to the Marriott program is basically they get too big for their britches. I've engaged with Marriott a few things now, and they tend to walk in the room with a bit of a swagger, just because they think they own all the existing inventory and don't see anybody as credible threats in most markets. And so I tend to be knee-jerk, single-minded when it comes to responses. And you have very effectively a way of going, say, well, either they're dumb, they're evil, or they were right. And it just I applaud the idea that you break it down into segmentations and into comparisons, where I'm just kind of like, this is what I think, boom, that's it, and then you get me off of that. So
I appreciate that. I mean, here's the thing: I'm not willing to call it on the Marriott. Unless I missed the news story. Did they back away from this and go back to full commission?
That's it.
No, but here's the thing:
they're alone.
They can't now. Like they have to actually, if anything, they need to double down and create a whole approach to like groups that has some better benefit for the group managers, so they don't completely burn that business. But they can't go back. Like they have to.
Right, and I'm wondering, in 2 years, will everybody be doing it? Maybe they ultimately will be right. Once upon a time, the airlines said we're going to stop paying commissions for the travel agents. And literally I shouldn't say everybody, quite a few people at the time said, oh, this will never last.
But the airlines said we're going to stop paying the airlines in all of these moves, they know the outcomes already, right? So I can't the airline of an example where an airline has done something and backed off of it. Yeah, aside from whatever, buying a certain kind of aircraft,
United,
they tell them Boeing one of the. I can't.
Beating employees to get them off
an example where.
Yeah, I was about to say they backed off.
They backed off of that real quick.
Yeah,
busting guitars and things like that. I think I'm going to say.
It's my favorite missed opportunity that United had. That was like when they changed their tagline. We came to kick ass and sell seats. We're all out of seats.
So I guess the question with the meeting planners. This would be a smart move for Marriott, and I'm sure their assessment was, hey, we've got all this inventory, it's in demand, they're going to book it anyway, we don't need to pay these commissions, which is exactly the thought process behind the airlines, right? It's just like, hey, we're just taking orders, these guys aren't shifting share to us, it's doing anything like that. They're just booking it, they're going to do it anyway, the behavior's not going to change, so pull the trigger. But with Marriott being alone and being so large, it is an opportunity for the rest of the industry to kind of go, hey guys, we're kinder and friendlier do it anyway, and that sort of thing. Which, I mean, look at Booking.com played that very well with Expedia in Europe, right? Expedia came in very arrogant, much higher, compensation levels, and Booking was friendlier, kinder, and which.
See, if I was the whoever's in charge of these decisions at Hilton, or who else would you say competes with Marriott?
Omni should jump in.
I would go to all the biggest group planning people, and I would offer a 5-year additional commission for an exclusive agreement.
And that's the thing.
Here's the thing: we all know at some point in the 5-year horizon, demand's going to soften a little bit. If you can make it to where the most powerful group houses can't go back to Marriott,
and that's the thing.
I mean, it's worth the penalty for the next, however long it takes for the market to cool a bit, to be able to just go back to Marriott, really dominate the potential of this being a bad decision.
Preferred actually sent out a big thing of obviously it's optional because Preferred is a membership organization, but here's all the benefits we would like to offer to meeting planners and the like. We would encourage you to participate in this, and has done a really nice promotion. Obviously, Preferred is a much smaller company, not that they're a small company. I mean, we would Preferred Marriott.
Preferred has a pretty big, but
if I was
there's a considerable amount of Preferred business
has done a really nice promotion. Obviously, Preferred.
Huge.
I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was.
If I was Hyatt or Hilton, I'd be going after the jugular of I'll give you 5 years of this guaranteed, but you have to agree that you can never book a Marriott. That's what I'd be doing.
Well, they can't.
I don't know if you can legally do that.
That's constrained to trade.
I'll give you 5 years of this.
That violates some RICO statutes.
Awful nice business you got here.
I don't know if you can legally do that.
The New Jersey
bringing that joke back. All day.
Coming back. You know what? Because I was sitting here thinking that Ed's like, why isn't anybody? The New Jersey.
And
hey guys, guess what?
It's Circle of Life. Lauren dies out. Holly.
No, it's not Holly. It's going to be Darlene. Darlene, I gave Holly's coach. Holly is there. She is.
Lauren, can't you just give
Circle of
Darlene?
Life. Lauren.
We don't have enough. I got to rotate them around. It's like Holly said she wasn't making it. Give it to Darlene. I'm like, Darlene, here's the code. Holly is there. She is.
Okay. Lauren, can't you just
we don't have enough. I got to rotate. I don't know if we were catching the tail end part of it. We were talking about how with Marriott's change in process with meeting planners and commissions based, that all these other companies should be all into the space right now and taking advantage of. To Ed's point, renegotiating long-term durability of contracts and giving incentive values so that they can lock them in better than commissions based. That all these other companies should be all into the
I
space
heard the
right
tail
now
end of that.
and taking advantage of. To Ed's point,
to be the kinder, gentler,
giving incentive values so that they can
more meeting planner friendly folks, I think, is the strategy being employed by probably everybody else in this.
Well, and maybe Omni would be the one to be really aggressive about it, because weren't they the ones who were trying to take over Gaylord, and Gaylord messed them up by getting a deal with Marriott? So Omni should be like, well, and maybe Omni would be
Omni Hyatt. I mean Hyatt. I
trying to take over Gaylord.
Well, there are more Hyatt places and Hyatt houses and things like that. But I think it's still group is like 40% of Hyatt.
Oh yeah, Omni is strong.
All those Regencies. Hyatt, same with Omni. Well, yeah, these things live and die, and even a lot of luxury groups. It's like 40% of Hyatt.
Oh yeah,
Group is a hugely mention of the business. So for everybody except for some economy guys who have no meeting space, and even with that, they're booking things out of Citywides and other overflows and signing contracts for it as well, even though they aren't getting the space. Some economy guys who have no media space, and even with that, they're big things. So things out of
Okay. I thought that was a good one.
I put the top story because there wasn't. I didn't really think there was a great top story that was kind of an earth-shaking one this week. But it is the International Hospitality or International Hotel Investment Forum, which falls right before ITB in Berlin. Actually, I found it's been quite the quiet week. A lot of people I normally work with are all off in Berlin, or they've been snowed in the Northeast, or digging out, or whatever. But I thought it was interesting with the CEOs, and I mean, this was a top flight CEO panel of these guys, of what they were really going to do, balancing brand growth, guest interactions, and us. I just looked at the CEOs and went, there ain't nothing new or really original. It's really kind of a sad thing to say. But I mean, there were a couple little items here and there, but they were kind of talking about here are the big things they got to do to compete against the Airbnbs and these large, the OTAs, all this stuff. And you just look at it and go, yeah, you're talking about this new brand that you have. IHG with 70 properties. And it's like, what are you doing about big all this stuff? And you just look at it and go, yeah, you're talking about this new brand.
Yeah, that's why I skipped it. I mean, to be honest with you,
but isn't it kind of astounding? That you've got? I mean, these aren't some guys. I mean, you got Pilates at
Wyndham. Of publicly traded organizations to come up and actually talk about real problems they have and real threats they have. Yeah, because that goes over well with the really shaky investor who's like, what? What? The CEO says there's a really eminent problem that's hard to fix? Sell! Yeah, because that goes over well. Like, they're publicly traded companies. If it was a private company of like some type of really interesting, guy at the head or gal at the head that like was making waves and changing hospitality, yeah, I'd be disappointed if that person didn't say something interesting. But you had a panel of names that can't say the wrong thing because it could cost people billions of dollars. So of course, this was an exciting group of people who talked about tea with the Queen. I mean, what do you want?
And it was. I thought there were a couple interesting comments. I mean, Pat Pacious, who's the CEO of Choice, basically said, if you get 30 or 40 brands, you turn yourself into an OTA. Which was kind of like, I'm not sure if that was.
I wish I was in the audience because I would raise my hand and I would have been like, no, if you invest billions of dollars into user consumer behavior research and providing high quality digital experiences, you're an OTA. If you have 30 brands, and you're just
confused.
You're one of you up there. Having the inventory. Is that the if you build it they will come mentality? Because that hasn't worked well in a long time.
But to Robert's point also, even though the scenario you paint is completely accurate about they can't say nothing for nothing that can anyway influence massive amounts of investor concern. They do want to also be something that they can say that can be referred back later or in future tense, backwards saying, yeah, that's what I meant when I mentioned nothing.
Right. So
try to create some parabolic.
Talking about the basic fundamentals of what these companies should care about, yes, that is the safe path, and that's what they did. So they didn't talk about anything new because this has always been the thing that they've always had to keep a balanced focus on. So yes, some years they let it go because they're focused on other things, but these are the fundamentals. If you hired a Tim Peter to come in and help one of these companies, he'd first be looking at a lot of these fundamentals and asking them, have you paid attention to this? Like, I don't, these, because that's what consultants do. They get you back to the basics. But again, I'm not going to fault them. And listen, fundamentals. It's also our job to point out what we would have liked, and because we're all paid so highly to do this show. To the basics.
I write them big checks.
Yeah, because here's the disappointing part is you have some of the best minds in the industry up on that stage, and they don't get to talk about it.
I write them big checks.
Yeah,
well, it's like it's funny because you don't see this very often. One of my favorite terms in the world is the Kinsley gaffe, right? It comes from politics, and we don't get this very often. The Kinsley gaffe is the time where a politician says the thing that they actually think that they're not supposed to say out loud. Those are always super fun, and we don't, a lot of the CEOs, this very often, very good reason, to your point about it can cost people billions of dollars, are very well schooled in how to avoid that, right? Because you have to. There's not a single person on that stage who doesn't very good reason, right? They wouldn't be in that role if they didn't. Are very well schooled in how to. I was thinking about this. I was listening to the Fuel podcast. There's not a single person on that stage.
Who puts that on? We know someone on that, don't we?
Rick Butler and the fine folks at Fuel Travel. I was listening to the Fuel podcast, which is a must listen. I was thinking about this. I was listening to the Fuel. I think the best podcast in the world for hospitality and marketing.
Who puts that on? We know someone.
I normally listen to it during the show.
And the fine folks at but I was listening to one from a couple weeks ago, and I am going to take them to task a little bit. So I was listening to it today, but it was one from a couple weeks ago where they were.
I'm going to text them real quick and tell them that Tim's calling.
We're slamming.
I was listening to one from a couple weeks ago because they're more right than not, but there was one bit of information that they were missing that I think the brands have a very real challenge ahead of them because of this. And they were talking about, I can't remember what they called it, the second wave of mobile or something like that, how you have to be ready for the was the talk that Stewart gave at a and they were talking about, basically talked about some stats that came from Criteo around how you have to be 80% of last minute bookings are made on mobile, and most of those at OTAs, and how OTAs dominate in terms of the percentage of searches, the percentage of bookings that they get from mobile as opposed to bookings hotels. And I think there's a false dichotomy there in saying that that's necessarily a bad thing. It's not great, and obviously you want to get 100% of your fair share as an individual property and as an individual property owner. Also, I'm going to Cleveland false dichotomy there, in saying that, and let's say that this is a last-minute trip. It's not great. If I go to an OTA, I'm going to find 50 hotels with availability in Cleveland, which means there are 50 different opportunities for me to say yes to the OTA. And if I go to an individual property website, I'm going to see one property, and that means that there's one possible way for them to say yes to this particular state. For me to say yes. And as a result, individual properties will never convert at the same rate as an OTA unless you're getting really narrow in the group of customers you're bringing. And the only way you do that is be very niche and very targeted and very focused, which you should do. But the idea isn't trying to be yes to everybody. It's to understand there are times where that's a yes that you can't be for somebody. And how do you attract the yes who are appropriate to you? So you're filling 80% of your rooms that you're going to fill with the business that you can get yourself, and let the OTAs bring you the bits that you can't do on your own, right?
And that traveler needs a reason to wind up at your website, right? We're either proximity, they need to know about maybe the layout of the city, where they're going, what they're doing, why are they may have heard of you, all those different things that you start getting heavily into content marketing, right?
That's right.
Cast your net out there and in the right spots where you can start getting known. But without that, kind of agnostic. Hey, I'm going to Cleveland for a day. I got to get in and get out for this business meeting. They may just purely be going, here's the address, what's close.
Well, or they're
looking to the airport because I'm going in and
I need the airport property because I got to be on the 6 a.m. flight. I don't care about any of the rest of the stuff. If you're a city center property who is 45 minutes away from the airport, you are not going to be a good answer for that traveler ever. And it's probably not worth your effort to fly to the flight. You should focus on the guests where you can. Well, that's the only part where I was taking them to task a little bit. I think all of their recommendations made sense. I agree with their approach and their recommendations just for different reasons. And when we talk about OTAs versus individual properties, that's a thing where so this is where the brands are in big trouble. When we talk about OTAs versus individual properties, the OTA gets to be scaled. They get to say yes 50 different ways. They get to say yes 100 different ways. And the individual property gets to be, I'm very focused and very niche on this specific groups of customers. It doesn't matter what they are. It doesn't have to be one, but it could be, I'm the best for this kind of traveler. I'm the best for these kinds of meetings. I'm the best for these types of weddings, etc. And don't worry about 90% of the rest of it. You'll get some carryover. You'll get some spillover because people who like the thing that you are will come to you for it anyways, even when it's not that kind of meeting. The brands are sort of stuck in the middle, where they can't do either of those, especially. And I would challenge the point that, and I don't remember which CEO said it, but you brought it up a moment ago. Brands are sort of stuck in the middle. If you have 30 brands, Pat Pacious, if you have 30 brands, you should be trying to get to be an OTA, because scale is the only play at that point.
Right.
Brought it up a moment ago. So that's I think things get interesting.
But this is the thing, is saying that when you get to 30 hotel or 30 brands, you're an OTA. Right. That's offensive to OTAs. I mean, that's all it takes.
It isn't just size.
But see, that's offensive. I mean, because you got to be on 30 brands. Expedia and Booking.com didn't get to where they are by having 30 brands at all. That's not at all what they did. They answered a consumer need, which wasn't a collection of brands. It was less friction to booking at all. That's not at all.
I think from a futuristic point of view to this, when AI has more of an integrated aspect to the result-driven stuff that we're being given and fed, the information, like you mentioned, Tim, that it will look at your flight time and know that in historical senses you've booked closer to the airport than you have to the downtown where the event may be driven, which it also has the data on. And it may go over and give you recommendations or tailor the responses specific to the fact that it's more important and more interesting. And then now all of a sudden you really taken brand out of the equation, because brand, to your point, can't be both. It can't be either. It has to be everything, but it's not everything in this circumstance because it's not tailored to the individual interest. Yeah, it creates a long term. If you start throwing AI's potential impact on brand out of the equation.
Oh, and my gosh, could you imagine if blockchain got involved in this? How bad it would be for the brand?
No buzzwords today, no B word today. There's no B word today.
Actually, but with that, you guys know Scott Gillespie? He's a corporate travel, corporate travel, really smart guy. He's been working with a lot of groups on just the whole efficiency of business travel, not really getting the cheapest rate or the lowest negotiated rate, but how do you really take care of your employees and make sure that you aren't wiping these guys out with just crazy inventories and first flight in the morning because it's cheap and this and inefficient stuff of how you can really how they can be really efficient in time. And I think you do. You start getting intelligent systems crazy with that, where all of a sudden it's making decisions going, here's the best way to do it, right?
Right, because it's a value. It's a value. I mean, that's the thing.
And I think
you're talking well, and there's a whole other aspect that AI will afford the likes of Google, which is by choosing which is by understanding which is the most valuable to the consumer. They'll also be able to understand if there's opportunity to make money, which is and listen, we all know that there's lots of opportunity to make more money if you really understand what's valuable to the consumer.
You know what? You just made a really neat point.
People have always thought
lots of opportunity to make more money if you
such a
really
misconception that people buy cars down, right?
Right.
And that's why
You know
the
what?
likes
You just
of
made a really neat
Airbnb are so successful. They figured out that people are loyal to experiences. They're not loyal to brands. So they've created a whole ecosystem around the experience, which allows them to do what Ed just said, is to capitalize on the revenue opportunity because they're giving the consumer what it is they're looking for, and that's why they grew to where they are today.
Right, because I have to be honest with you, I'm a very value-oriented human being, as we all are, but I'm aware of it, and I know that there are certain things that even if you gave it to me free, I would say no thanks, because I see no value in it. So, but see, discounting is what you is a methodology to, I would make up for the fact that you're deficient in other areas of selling the value proposition. So you discount in absence of content. You discount in absence of understanding. You discount in absence of strategy of selling the value proposition. That's the bottom line.
That's exactly right.
In absence of content.
Yeah. Well, and it is. It's
I can't type those things fast enough. You know that. Those were great points, Ed. Those are absolutely excellent points. And I really thank you, because the same thing when you're talking about value that got pointed out. Because to me, right now we talk about relevancy, but not value. And you made a very succinct point of that value is based on nothing to do with relevancy. Relevancy could be everything that you think would be about value, but it's not. Value is value driven, not relevant.
and the really
value is just an equation, right? That looks at price versus the experience. And that experience may be, hey, I do need to be on airport because I have a 6 a.m. departure tomorrow, and I need to spend, less than $100. That's a value, and that experience, right? That has nothing to do with being $79. It has to do with that combination of the two, and that's where the value comes in. And I don't think people always understand that. They think, wow, value and that experience, that has nothing to do with looking for the cheapest. Well, if everyone was looking for the cheapest hotel, then everyone would be staying in the $59 a night hotel. I don't think people always understand that.
Right. I mean, one of the things I put together years and years ago, and it's out on my blog. I can't post links on this show for some reason.
Everyone would be staying in the $59 a night hotel.
I don't mind.
But ever since we went to the Facebook thing, I just can't figure out how to post anything
Facebook's
without knocking us off. Anyway,
I can't do it either, too.
we used to call it the P's and Q's, right? Which is, how do people define value? We went to the Facebook, and it is price, proximity, quality, and quality. We used to call it the P's and so, and and people will shape that into a trapezoid or into a funky looking square or whatever based on what's important to them for that particular day.
I like the circles that intersect each other.
Right? Yeah, a Venn diagram. Absolutely. The first time I ever saw it, was, we were doing ethnographic.
I like the circles that intersect.
Offices and homes, as they were booking travel. First time I ever saw it, I'll never forget this, because it was Hotel Circle, San Diego, right? And this one guest was looking, and he articulated it perfectly. Offices, he was looking at a group of hotels as they were booking, and literally there was an $8 difference in rates between the two properties. And he said, this one is fantastic. And he articulated the $8 one was higher. Looking at a group of hotels, $8 more, but it's right literally in the middle of where you want to be. And this other one that was $8 cheaper was in the middle of nowhere. This one is fantastic. And literally, I don't remember the street off of Hotel Circle, but literally it was a quarter mile down the road. Middle of where you want to be. You know, and for this guy, proximity was a really key factor in that specific decision. For $8 less, it didn't matter. He needed to be right there. You know, and so those four things, you know, the price, the proximity, the quality, and the qualities really huge are what drives that specific.
And it also works the other way. Like that exact example can be the other way. That same person who's going there for a specific reason to where it is unattractive to be in the center and it's better to be on the perimeter would feel the opposite way and would pay $8 more. So it's the understanding of what's going on with the person you're interacting with and correctly selling the values that defines whether or not you get the transaction. What OTAs get to do is they have lots of things that are valuable, and they're really good at positioning things that you're most likely to buy based on what it knows about you.
That's right.
And it's because they're really good at data and behavior analysis, and they have enough inventory to offer lots of different value propositions.
By the way,
and the only thing that gets in the way.
Sorry, this is really quick. I'm really bullish on AI, but it's one of the reasons why I think we're much further away from the kinds of intelligent systems we like to talk about than we like to pretend sometimes. Because not only does it have to know what my preferences are, but it has to know what my preferences are for this
situation.
Specific situation, and that's going to be a lot tougher for it to learn. Not only does it have to know, you know, quickly on an individual basis, on a group basis.
But here's the thing. You say that, but actually, so we're talking about like voice specifically in this. One of the benefits voice has is it has the ability to speak back. So, hey, looking to stay somewhere. But here's the thing, Ed, are you traveling with the family this time? Is the wife coming or just the kids? Where a search engine can't do that in a search bar. But this is actually, when you want to talk about what's dangerous in voice, it's when voice can get to the point that it knows enough about you to know what questions to ask you as a follow-up of the question you ask. But this is actually, that's when web pages will disappear. It's when
but two things happen. One is knowing about that guest, and then knowing about that broad pool of everyone else and what everyone else likes. And it's like, it's almost like the thing when you're doing focus groups, and not always asking your users exactly what your product should be, because they have a kind of finite look at it. It's almost kind of go outside of that. At least the great companies really do that well. Like, what's the market need? What that sort of thing. So they can kind of, the really smart AIs are going to wind up coming in and going, yep, we know what Ed really likes, and this is good, but have you tried this? People have loved it. And let's see, are you willing to take a shot at it? And that will be a really interesting thing, and I think that's where Google makes really big money. They can start revealing that to the advertisers.
And
you got a shot at this, and you should do that. Will be a really
and here's how much it is to be present. But here's the thing: when we get to that point, that is the beginning of the end of brands as we currently know them, not just in travel, not just in travel, but here's the thing: in everything.
Oh, Ed, your face is going to look like Lauren's in a second. Tim is
I'm clear on this.
Coming in Jersey style.
Before Tim makes his case to disagree, let me make my case on why I believe it. So, brand, I'm clear on this. Loyalty, I mean, it's not really loyalty. Brand familiarity is something a lot of consumers lean on, which is, I've had a good experience with this, therefore I am inclined to go with that brand in the case that I'm met with a decision where that brand is present. I think when you have the ability for technology to consult that brand. Okay, let's really talk about what that is. Because the way you find a brand is you end up trying it because something convinced you to try it for the first time, right? And that came through give and take. It's input and output, and because the way you find a brand, when we get to the point that I'm talking about, where AI will be able to say, "Oh, okay, Ed, you're ready to plan a trip. Who's coming with you?" Okay, and it can take all of the things it knows about my son and my daughter and my wife that it's learned over time, or straight Q&A sessions. Because here's the thing: if you're looking to be enriched and have your life enriched, you'll do a Q&A session. It will. You won't think. You won't. If the AI says, "Hey, in San Francisco, based on everything if the Hotel Zephyr is the perfect fit for this specific trip for you and the family," you're not going to turn around and say, "Is that a Marriott?" If the AI says, "Hey, in San Francisco, oh, is there a Marriott that's somewhat close? Because I don't want to try the perfect fit that you use everything you know about me to tell me is a perfect fit." Is that a Marriott? If the AI says, "Hey, in San
Disagree. I think the AI, if it knew that you were that brand, if it knew that you were that brand loyal though to Marriott, it should already know that and go, "You know what? You would generally pick the Marriott, but have you thought about the Zephyr? Because here's the thing, yeah,
and this is where I'm saying
maybe better, and maybe some. Here's an alternative. You already know that and go,
because you only have to be right as an AI once with someone super brand loyal, and then they're going to be like, "Oh man, that hotel was awesome," or those sneakers that weren't Nikes were amazing, and I would never have thought of trying them if you didn't realize that those sneakers were great for people with flat feet.
Right, and here's the thing: I got to jump in really quick because in 2 minutes I'm receiving a call and I will have to drop off.
You only have to disagree with me.
No, but just have the call here. We'll all help you.
Yeah, we'll help you.
Here's the thing: I got to jump in really quick. With attorneys, I would be more than happy to, but they might have an issue with this. So here's the thing: I actually think we agree more than we disagree. After saying how much I disagreed a second ago, well, because I think we need to be very careful about how we define our terms. You know, a strong brand that has a strong value proposition. After saying what Robert just said, I completely agree with. You know, I'm not going to switch from Diet Coke, to something that isn't, to Diet Pepsi, just because it was an interesting recommendation one time. I have strong affinity and strong loyalty for that brand. I'm not going to switch from Diet Coke.
Is that your call?
That's my call. All
right.
Great talking to you. Just because. Have a great day. Bye now. Recommendation.
So
for those who want to know,
but talking to Tim's point, because I do agree with Tim's point that it will be difficult, but I think it will be easier with the technology able to do back and forth. Because listen, marketing today is you get one shot at someone's attention. If you don't nail it, you lost to preference, right?
And it's one way.
It's one way, right? Where AI and voice represents the opportunity to have what all people want, which is a discussion.
And it's one way.
It's one way.
Well, there's also the discovery value.
AI.
There is an inherent where you didn't consider something, but because of a trusted, and you said AI only has to be one. AI has to only be right once for you to start going down this path. Same reason why you get somebody off of a brand loyalty to independent hotels. You just have to have them try it once and realize all the things that kept them from trying independent hotels aren't as what they thought they were. They had a good experience, so now they're opening their portfolio of ideas. I like the brand, but I don't mind the variants.
And I got to tell you, Gen Z, or whatever they're permanently going to be named, the ones who are now 22 years old, if that doesn't frighten you, they are the ones who are going to be the least loyal, because they're the ones who have had unlimited access to knowledge and content their entire lives. They do not know what it is to be restricted from just having everything at their fingertips. Those are the ones that are going to push for this back and forth, because those are the ones that are hungry for discovery. And as they age into being serious players in the economy, and it's not far from now, they're going to be challenging challenging for the workforce to adjust because they're going to be very different than millennials. They're also going to be, as a consumer, probably one of the toughest to nail from the current form of marketing that exists, which is non-conversational, it's one way, and it's very transactional driven. Current market, one of the
look at loyalty in a different way because
there is no loyalty. Well, and let's face it.
It's rewards.
It's rewards. I was talking to someone and I said,
operating conditioning is what it is.
A really good rewards program should be based off the same fundamentals on how you would train a puppy. When somebody does something,
it's operating conditioning. That's all you're doing. It's operating conditioning.
Like, give them a reward. When someone does something you kind of like, should be based on a little bit of a reward. When someone does something you dislike, no reward. When somebody does something,
reward, loyalty. The fact is that they're going to have to engage those people to stay with them time and time again, using an entirely different approach, because what boomers and X's were attracted to has changed for those people, right? So they just have to, unassemble their current thinking about it, as they probably are, and looking at it from an entirely different perspective. And how are all those new apps that they probably are? I learned of one recently in Chicago. It's a transportation app, and how is instead of taking the train to work, all of the very young millennials together, and they all share a car to get to work because it's cheaper, it's more efficient, and it's
a car in Chicago could take a lot longer than where you're going.
Yes, but hey, listen, less chances that you're going to get shot.
To get to work because it's cheaper.
Oh, that's a pleasant thought. Thank you.
A car in Chicago could take a lot longer.
The whole notion is, and this company's not doing a ton of marketing. It's word of mouth, and it's these people talking to other
people. Marketing doesn't work.
But
oh wait, yeah, it does. It does. Sorry, I mean,
it does. Not doing a ton of marketing. Yeah, so brands are going to have to talking to other
guys. So I've been preparing a presentation. I'm presenting about each next week, and part of this presentation is I had to do kind of this big what happened in 2017 in marketing. I was like, crap.
Is your whiteboard behind you a part of that presentation? Because I think it's going to be slightly confusing.
No, that's something else. Kind of this big what happened. I found a really interesting statistic, though, that actually speaks to a nuance that a lot of people don't understand enough of, especially in our industry, which is the importance of quality design. So here's an interesting statistic that I found on ComScore through a survey that surveyed people 18 and up about apps that they use on their devices. So here's an interesting statistic. So this was a question about how likely are you to remove an app purely because you do not like how it looks on your home screen. So here's an interesting statistic. That sounds almost ridiculous, right? This was a question but people age 18 to 34, 21% of them said that they have removed an app purely because it was ugly on their home screen.
Wow.
But people age 18 to 34, and 2% of age 35 to 54 answered that they did that. 3% of people 55 plus did that. So let's look at what's different. Well, the people who are 18 to 34, they came of age in some of the best design technology, like UIs and everything, where the rest kind of remember phone books and the really crappy way you had to do things, like having only a phone and a typewriter on your desk. I can't imagine how anyone got work done. Where the rest kind of remember. But you have to think about, think about this. Design now is so important to your business and your brand that literally it will make someone not even give you a chance purely on the very first impression, which is the aesthetic of your logo, of your app. And that blew my mind. I mean, I've always kind of felt like that's the challenge that a lot of hotels have, is their design is horrible. Which is the aesthetic. I mean, more often than not, and it's the one thing I will say I don't understand about Booking.com. I mean, I've always kind of felt like that, because Booking.com just slays it, but I actually think that their design is horrible.
That great.
It's horrible, but I think people are one thing I will say for value. I mean, it's the only thing I can think of, because Booking.com.
Same with TripAdvisor, that awful user interface that they spent time and fortune on, and has killed their share price. They did everything right from a design perspective. They cleaned it up. It doesn't work as well, right? It's just that old messy thing allowed on it to kind of go through and like digging through a rubble heap to go on from a design perspective.
There are emojis. And I don't think
right? It's just that
the
old messy
OTA
thing
property experiences cut through the clutter. In a way that the people that Ed's talking about would appreciate.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I don't think any of them do an excellent job at it, but I think they all do a better job than the average hotel experience that you're served, brand or not. I don't think they're going to win medals for their design, but when compared to the people they're trying to win the consumer attention against, they're leaps and bounds better. I don't think they're going to win.
I think you hit on the chord though too, and that is based on the age categorizations you sliced up. There is this relationship of persona to what you're associated with, and I think in some ways people, because they are more self-branded and how they see themselves, and so everything they do has some sort of touch to that now. And your phone, as often as it's used, and we all know how connected to you it is. It never leaves more than 3 feet, 98% of the time, or some ridiculous number. Is that whole persona? Where, I mean, think about if you were to ask those same questions about the case that we all know how, if we did a study on what case you have your phone in, does it hold little extra credit cards? Is it sticky on there? Is it a battery? Is it a slim line? Do you even put a case on it? There's a whole discussion of people that do phones au naturel. What case you have? So all of these things have interpretation of people. When you see people, do you even put a case on it? I don't want to lose that subject.
Well, let's continue, because this actually ties into someone who I actually got to see speak last week that I'm now a fan of. So I was at the Navis Leaders Conference last week. First of all, I'm going to say, actually ties into some company-based conferences last week that they had the best content I've ever seen, tied throughout all speakers. First of all, I'm going to say, really strong. They put a ton of work into this, to where, listen, normally I'll pop in, get the gist of someone, and if they're not killing me with awesome stuff, I'm out. So normally most conferences, 2 to 3 minutes in each speaking session, with maybe 1 or 2 that I sit all the way through. I was mad that I missed certain ones because they were at the same time as other awesome stuff. But they did this opener on the last day, which is a new board member of theirs, which is Sanjay, who used to be the chief marketing officer of Marketo. And he did this presentation, which is that, holy smokes, if you ever can get a chance to listen to Sanjay talk and you want to understand what it takes to win today, you need to hear him speak about engagement marketing. Holy smokes. Because he is, first of all, really good at simplifying it, because engagement marketing is quite complex and, pretty hard to pull off. But he's got it simplified down to 5 key items. Because he is, I could have listened to him speak for another 2 hours. It was so good. And it was around this idea that you hear hear me talk about sometimes, but it's something I truly believe in, which is I could have listened to him. Marketing isn't being present to win anymore, because everyone's present to win. Everyone's screaming. Marketing is about building relationships, and relationships take nurture, take effort. So one really cool thing he gave out was like his look at email and how you should email a person, and he used his 411 rule. 4 of your emails should be pure gives, pure just email, and trying to build quality in your life. The next one should be a nudge towards a transaction, and then the next one should be a straight up ask. In your life. Like, yes, that is much better. So Sanjay Dholakia is his name. And if you get a chance to hear him speak, it's awesome. His points about engagement marketing and what's expected is fantastic. Even channel strategy, he went into channel strategy, how to look at channels versus devices. He warned, he's like, guys, mobile, you should look at mobile. There are channels inside of mobile. Within a thumb move, there's 5 channels on mobile. How to look at channels. Really enjoyed hearing him talk, and had some great insights. And I think it lends into this idea of design, because design isn't just about look and feel. It's also about process and engagement. Really it's also one of the reasons why I think a lot of companies are failing in channels. So you're hearing a lot of hubbub about conversion rates coming out of Instagram lately. Well, firstly, y'all jumped into Instagram. Like, you were all like, oh, there's a new train I can hitch onto. I'm Instagramming. But you didn't take any time to think about what's the expected experience. Well, firstly, on someone who's on Instagram. It's different than Facebook. It's different than Snapchat, not as much anymore. But I think it's this whole idea of engagement marketing, and so one of the things I kind of, because I don't want to straight steal from this guy's awesome presentation, so I had to create like my own thought processes. And my key takeaway that I simplified it into is you cannot market on social channels the same way you market on search engine. Because search engine, someone who's on a search engine, they're in active discovery mode. They are looking
for an answer. They want an answer.
Right. Whereas in social, and different social, it's like varying degree of this, they're in passive discovery mode. They're just like, oh, did you catch my eye? Great. You have a couple seconds. Whereas in social, spend a couple more seconds, spend a couple more seconds, and then you got to at some point convince me that I'm a consumer of yours. Like, it's a different process than search. They're just like, oh, I'm your answer is your position in search engine, where it's a completely different path on social. And then you got to at some point.
Did you see where Snapchat was offering free funding for advertising with them if you validate that you are currently advertising with Instagram?
It's completely.
Which I thought was
But here's their
interesting.
problem. Like, sure, there are certain players and certain companies that get it that will do really well on Snapchat. But then there's everyone else. The ones who've adjusted to figure out Facebook. Because Facebook's not as hard to figure out as some of the others. Like, you can't do your Facebook approach to marketing inside of Snapchat. It won't work. There's different expectations on what the engagement is. So I as some of the others, that was my takeaway. Like, was how to depict what he spent an hour talking about into something really easy to wrap your head around. Don't market on social like you do on search engine. Here's why.
Right.
I want to think what you just said.
Like, was how to depict
yeah,
what he spent an hour talking about.
Smart insights, right? But if we boil it down, and I always just like to go offline for comparison. So it's no different. People who are watching TV have different expectations than people who are listening to the radio. You wouldn't communicate with them the same way offline on those two different devices. It's no different. The same way you're not
or a magazine. a magazine versus a newspaper.
Exactly. Right.
But yet inside of digital, that kind of seems to have been lost.
I know, and I don't get it, right?
Like everything's a nail because I got a digital hammer. I'm Mario.
Newspaper.
But yeah, inside of digital, that kind of seems to have been lost.
And ignoring your audience is
Like everything's a nail because I got a digital hammer.
Trying to sell a convertible on, I don't know, the Discovery Channel, right, where it's just a bad fit. So I think we just have to go back to basics and go, what is it that I'm trying to achieve? Where are those people? And right where it's just how, when they're on that channel, how do they want to be talked to? What is it that I'm trying to we just go back to that. It isn't that hard. Where are those people?
No, I do want to rewind. I mean, like what's really funny about it is that's actually kind of always held true that all the fundamentals of marketing apply to social. Don't spam a list. No, any list gotten through ill means will be low quality in engagement. Kind of always held true that like these are all marketing fundamentals. If you go buy a list of name a list, or if you just grab a phone, any list like hit the phone book, you know, it's low quality. And yet people run schemes all the time to try to build their Facebook following and their Instagram following, and it's schemes. So you're gonna end up with garbage on the other end of it. But that's always been the case. It's been the case in any form of marketing. If you've got the list through a scheme, it's low quality. Like you're gonna
right. Well, but again, it all falls back. What are their objectives as an organization? Right? What do they do? And all of that strategy that goes behind it, and the metrics that they're measuring it by. So if you've got crappy metrics like Facebook followers or Twitter followers, yeah, you can gin up those numbers, but it doesn't have anything to do with sales or engagement or brand perception or anything like that. It's crazy. Just to get back to Ty very quickly, because we kind of got this brand things like this. I'm going to try to segue into something else because I have to leave engagement but brand perception. Yeah, I know. I got to go talk to it. Just to get back to Ty.
What the hell's this client stuff getting in the way here? Whoa. Rule of Fight Club is there is no clients in Fight Club.
These guys are really big and important. Yeah, I know. I got to go talk to it. But anyway, the one thing I want to close on the CEOs, I thought the classic line was certainly from Hilton. These guys are really big. Nasetta's saying, I think it's appropriate to lock owners into 25-year contracts. This is his solution. A longer contract with owners helps solidify the relationship. A longer-term agreement allows more perspective, and Hilton puts in a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. Shorter terms lead to less alignment and leads to experiences that are not as good. It's like, with the dynamicism of this.
Did they say that with a straight face? Did he actually say that?
Oh, I think so. I think so.
Oh, good Lord.
Shorter terms lead to less.
I'm going to say it now. I think more people would benefit from 10-year contracts with Flip2 because they would be more aligned with our long-term vision. We'd also be less distracted driving incremental value while we're chasing the big vision because they would be more aligned. But you got to come along for the ride. So we're,
that doesn't fly.
So what I thought was interesting, though, was an article that was the female hotelier makes activism part of her company's mission. And this is Eaton Hotels and Catherine Lowe. And yesterday being the International Day of Women, and thank you, Darlene, for coming on, because otherwise it's completely non-representative. So speaking for all, the representative of all women everywhere, global. Thank you, Darlene, for coming on, because otherwise it's But I thought it was very interesting. This woman is 21 years old, and now you go, wait, how does a 21-year-old become the leader of a hotel group? Well, her father founded Langford. Okay, so that helps.
So,
but
right.
and now
I'm
studied anthropology at Yale, and the things that they're doing with these are, she has a vision for this. It's going to be, it's more activism and what this brand represents. And I think those sorts of brands, yes, those will matter, and where people have a true connection, where they feel what that brand represents in terms of the emotional connection, what it stands for, either politically or socially or whatever. Those are the things that are really going to matter, which are going to be very hard for a group like a Marriott or Hilton, who have 30 or 40 or just these massive scale folks to produce.
They're what they're really doing is they're hyper focusing on a specific consumer, and they've realized that there's enough of a consumer to fill the demand of their brand. Here's what I'm going to be interested in, is when they're what they're really doing, when they need to change specific, because like it's fine if you're going to stay private and stay a private company. Here's what I'm going to be interested in. You can do that, and yes, you'll have to accept that you're not going to get certain types of employees, because choosing this route also means like you'll never get someone like me, because I got to be honest with you, I don't care, and I don't want to hear, like, I hate Chick-fil-A for two reasons. One, they're closed on Sunday, and that annoys me. Also, two, they actively are against people who are gay. I don't care.
Right.
Like, and I have a problem with that, not because I care, like, I don't have a dog in the show. I care that they made a stupid business decision to say that they're actively against people who are gay. You shouldn't care. Right. You're a business. And I have a problem with that. So if you're private, fine. I don't have to do that wacky stuff. You're going to end up on the news, whichever side of the issue you're on. You're either going to be on Fox or CNN. One of them's going to be smashing you. But as soon, the problem this person is creating for this brand is they are capping the future. They will not be able to be in a successful IPO situation, because they will not be able to scale to a size while keeping the activist nature. It's a dream of a 28 for this brand who has not been affected by the fact of, I can work very closely with someone that I completely fundamentally disagree with many things on, because I'm an adult and I understand that different perspectives bring different value to an organization, and that hyper focus to a single value is going to create a thin organization. So it's a private companies do it, but like as soon as you go public, you're running a disservice.
And Chick-fil-A won't. And Chick-fil-A, I mean, Truett Cathy, who's the guy who founded it, the guy who's just blatantly anti, complete homophobe sort of thing. He's the guy who said that. And again, the Christian values, that's why they, and part of it, I kind of look at it and go, well, he's not open on Sundays, and his beliefs are like, and that really resonates to a large group of people going, you know what? He stands by this, and he's leaving a lot.
And I'll be honest, I was only slightly annoyed by that. What made me hate them was the open.
Oh, absolutely. And that really,
and actually, what made me hate them more was still knowing that, like, I know many gay people who love Chick-fil-A. I'm like, how?
I know.
This company openly hates you and isn't shy about openly hating them, and they are still knowing that.
The founder does, right? The founder does that. I don't think the general Chick-fil-A employee population is necessarily indoctrinated.
Listen, when the company is behind it, so there's a difference between founder beliefs but then corporate support of founder beliefs. Okay, right. That's when it's like, listen, I don't care if people believe with the things I say, but Flip2 doesn't also support everything I say, because it's a business. It's here to serve a purpose, create jobs. Like, it's a part of an economy. Businesses do activist-based stuff, and I've watched it in startups. I watch startups that start off and say, we're only going to hire people who are this way. Well, you're actually being ageist, because people who have families and are in a different stage of life can't be this businesses do so like you're just it's not thoughtful doing that.
Oh, no. And the diversity. There was actually a great podcast. I love the Recode Decode with Kara Swisher. But she had a great podcast this week with she was speaking with Sheryl Sandberg at the Lesbians in Tech Conference, right? So it was a really interesting conversation about how you work through all this. And I mean, the agreement was that just you need diverse, really diverse people make you a much better organization and help you understand your customers and the world.
I think to define something you're saying is I completely agree with you that if you create hard stance against things, you are capping your business potential. Two, by dragging your business into a perspective like that, you're also defining the business as to what people do engage with. But to another point, if you change that to a little bit, what you increase as inclusive to, like we are going to hire physically challenged people, we're going to hire special needs. If you try to show an overt inclusion effort, where you're saying we're not excluding everybody else, but we also recognize that there's an unfair service to other potential people, and you agree them as an inclusion. To that end, I would actually raise the question: can that advocacy create that brand loyalty because of your inclusion value?
But if it's a real inclusion value, because I got to be honest with you, so like if you go look at how diverse of an employee base Easyyield had, you would think we tried. Instead, let me tell you how we. But if it's a real inclusion value, because I got to be honest, that would be so like the company. Go look at how diverse, and we are in a diverse area. We're in Orlando. It's a very diverse population here, and instead we didn't try. It just happened because we didn't see those things. We didn't intentionally do things, and we are. And so like I just become super skeptical of businesses who lead with things like this.
Not to lead. I'm not saying that. But you pointing it out is also doing what I'm saying by saying like, look, we had this opportunity. We created our university by keeping a guideline of saying we only want the best in our business.
And part of it is I'm not saying the culture comes from the top, right? And I've always looked at it as like, honestly, I don't care about a lot of things about people. I care how meaningful are they to my life or whatever I find in my life. Right, and so I put a lot of the other stuff aside, and I do that. I've always looked at it as the people around me. Like if you look at my friends are completely diverse, like completely, because I don't care about a lot of the crap that people get tied up in. Because if you do that, you're robbing yourself. You're robbing yourself.
Are Robert and I on the spectrum? Are Robert and I on that wide spectrum, like this?
Yeah, you guys are. You guys are hit by lightning yourself.
But to that end, like I'm thinking like
one of my favorite people in my Facebook network is crazy. He is crazy. He's in our industry. And anytime I post anything that even comes close to touching a political issue, it's paragraph. But I actually learn a lot. Like I don't believe it all, but I learn little nuggets and I enjoy it. Anytime I
picture a hotel ownership group that says for everybody that stays with us, we're building a tent somewhere, or we're building something somewhere.
I like it.
Right. Now, that's an inclusion aspect. That's not like you're against a certain genre of people or anything. That's like saying we're trying to make a positive effect as a business. We're recognizing it's an opportunity that we can help with. That we're taking away from our profitability or our success of revenue generation and overbloated costs or whatever, and we're trying to make a shared contribution. Can that possibly?
I like Tom.
Make a loyalty guy.
Buy one, give one thing. I think that's a cool way to do it. Put shoes on kids. I think someone does it with glasses now, which is that's awesome.
Yeah, do it with glasses. And we're trying to make a shared contribution. Can that possibly?
Trying to launch a hotel brand basically has things like confronting climate change and inequality, right? These are part of their things, and they kind of made the comment that in addition to to making a good cocktail. But I thought what was really interesting on how they describe this business, not once did they talk about thread count on sheets or square footage of rooms or all of that. It's like, this is what this brand represents, and here's what we are. Here's what we are about. And I think they are being more on the inclusionary. Everybody's, and yes, you can call that. It's liberal. It's more globalist. All of that. It's like,
I don't think, but I don't think
which would be very
anti. Call it
activists. Here's what we are about.
And so that's the thing. I think it's
BS.
Like, I think it's honestly BS. I think they're looking at it's a ploy to make it seem like they're doing this stuff to suck in the lemmings who fall for that crap.
I think you're too old and cynical, Ed.
No, you know what it is? I'm the generation who sees BS, okay? And that's BS. I like the companies that quietly are improving the world and the lives of their employees. And every now and then it comes out when it's appropriate for it to come out. But to lead with, let's not talk about our product.
Now I'm with you on that. From a marketing point of view, I agree with you. From a social point of view, I think it should be part of the conversation. Marketing, I don't think you should put on your placard all the time, we support free shoes for homeless people. I think, however, in your social dialogue of creating culture and identity for yourself, that you should about those things that you're doing, because they are the defining difference. Marketing, and let's be fair, business is business. The business is doing it, yes, to be noble and good, but it's also to do business. However, and if you can define yourself differently than the other competitor across the street with the other vanilla name that they have, and identify something different about yourself, there's a value proposition.
And as long as it's inclusion-based and you have corporate policy that you will never be activist on something that's at all excluding people, then I'm I'm a little bit.
This article, these guys are. I think
we warned Ed cold hard. We got him as far as he's okay with it. We're good. This is good. We reached
all. Well, I still think, but here's the reason I'm offended by this specific one. It's a load of crap.
It's an idealistic 21-year-old that's making headlines.
And as soon as that person hits some type of difficulty with the business or dire straits with the business, half that crap goes out the door.
It just
I don't know. We're talking about generation.
It's an idealistic 21-year-old that is making. Hey, Robert, you said you were on the timeline. Before you leave,
I am.
Where to find you, all that kind of good stuff.
Robert K. Cole on social media or rockcheeto.com.
We're talking about. And I have two things I want to rewind back to, but Robert, thank you very, very, very much.
Robert, always a pleasure, my friend.
I am.
Thanks for
always good
to find you, all that kind of good stuff. That's right. Yes, thank you so much for that. I want to rewind back to one thing that Darlene had mentioned, and that was there is an app that actually got featured in ABC News that is considered to be the mass transit Uber idea app, which is people are aggregating their vans or actually getting larger scale transportation and creating their own quote bus routes that people can prescribe to, and with the app call them over so that they don't have to go to a bus stop necessarily. They can go to whatever location has been designated on that route and join the mass transit Uber, as it were. And I think it started in DC, which brings me up to another question, which was I was over and talked to some restaurant owners in DC that said that the suburb restaurants are improving. They call it the Uber effect because taxis never really went out to their suburb areas, and Uber does. They're getting a whole wave and level of business because Uber is giving them availability of people inner city and other areas to their restaurants that they never had before.
Yeah, because listen, you know, like I live slightly outside of the downtown Orlando corridor, and so you know what, when we go out
inner city and other areas to their restaurants,
they get a taxi. Yeah, because we never went out and did that stuff. I live slightly outside. When ride sharing came to town, like, yeah, you can get an Uber or a Lyft to my house inside of 10 minutes, which that changes things. Like, yeah, okay, let's go do something we wouldn't normally do because, you know, the transportation is frictionless. I mean, that is some of the really good stuff that came about from Uber's evil empire, which is that they did, like, they changed a lot of consumer dynamics, like a lot of consumer dynamics. Uber Uber Eats, believe it or not, now that Dara is the head of Uber, I'll actually give Uber my money again. I love Uber Eats. I think it's amazing. I actually order Uber Eats inside hotel rooms when I don't like their room service menu, or if their room service doesn't pick up. Now that Dara is the head of Uber,
which is a crazy missed opportunity for hotels.
Huge missed opportunity.
But before I go, the only thing, because I know I've actually one more minute because I was padding 5 minutes. But are you guys familiar with BlaBlaCar in Europe? BlaBlaCar is, I think, is great concept. Basically, it's for intercity transit. So it's like the ride board at college, right? If you're in Paris and you're going to Nice, you go, but they have some very strict rules that the drivers can't profit from driving the car. So it figures out that you're driving a Peugeot whatever, and you have so many people, and it knows the gas mileage, it knows the expense, and it goes, yeah, these people are all going to pay you such and such, and you go, and it's shared. And so it's very low cost. It doesn't have things like surge pricing and stuff like that. And they haven't come to the U.S. yet, but boy, they are doing millions of rides across Europe. Really great. True, that is a true sharing economy,
right? Which is, I'm doing something. I'm open to being less wasteful by letting someone else who's looking to do the same thing
defray your costs
and pay their costs, like pay their cut. That's true sharing economy, like Airbnb and Uber, and they're not something open, but like BlaBlaCar. That's true. Letting someone else who's like that same thing.
Defray your costs.
Yeah, pay their costs, like pay their cut. Sharing. That's true. Sharing. Like and I like those businesses because I like the sharing. Open. Like Uber, Lyft. That's the gig economy.
Right. Now the question now is, Robert, when you leave, are you going to be that person at a cocktail party that because you get up and get your coat, everybody's like, figures that's the time to duck and dodge? So if you leave, well, all of a sudden we'll be like, oh my gosh.
No, you guys have a bunch of news stories to talk about. You don't even have to have my input, Dragon. You can talk about Radisson's 8 hotel brands explained. You can talk about
you
Google giving up on Zagat.
No. You have to bring Ramada back next week because you are the brand recap. I still to this day remember the show where we went through and tried to guess the brand when you read the description and had a blast. None of us got any of them right.
Well, he was inside one family with that too.
That was just one brand. It wasn't anything else.
And I told you the brand family as well.
Yep.
Couldn't repeat it us any.
None of us got any of them right. So we got to bring Ramada back.
Well, it's Radisson, so that you're already talking about brand.
Well, and that is Radisson.
Because with an R, I don't even know which one we're talking about.
Well, Carlson changed their name to Radisson, so that's one of the brands. They've got 8 of them. So go study up on Corvus.
Some of them,
whatever.
Some of them, like I didn't even realize that the Radisson collection existed. I mean, and that's okay because that seems newer. There's only 14 hotels, but that's supposed to be like their luxury upper scale. I knew Radisson Blue existed, and I thought that was actually a nice Radisson collection. Radisson Red. I mean, and that's okay because that's a little shaky.
Yeah.
Park Plaza, but that's supposed to be like
that's what came out of Park Inn when they acquired Park Inn.
No, I know, right? But Radisson Plaza, like they haven't labeled as upscale. That was actually, and I kind of have not had that experience. I mean, and that's okay.
Got to go look at the STR. Maybe they went with that.
Okay. Because listen, like they're saying it's like IHD's Crown Plaza, like today's Crown Plaza or Crown Plaza when it was kind of a hot mess. Because today's Crown Plaza has really tightened up brand standards, and I haven't. Okay. To be fair, I haven't stayed in a Park Plaza in a couple years. Saying it's like cleaned it up, but my previous recollection of Park Plaza was not Crown Plaza. Because today's Crown Plaza has really tightened up.
It was an upscale
standards.
Yeah. Park Inn.
Go ahead. Are you leaving too?
I gotta go.
Something you taking off?
All right.
See, Robert, you are the cocktail party pooper. You are the cocktail party pooper.
I gotta leave. Ed's there for the duration. Talk to you later.
Darlene, if people can find you, where do they find you?
Darlene Rondo, LinkedIn.
I gotta go.
All right. Darlene, thank you so much for hopping on. Sincerely appreciate it. Hope to see you next week as well.
I gotta leave.
I know. Here we are, Mr.
Now it's going to go.
It's going to go south.
And I'm kind of fired up today.
You are. You know what? But I got to tell you something. I wrote down some great comments. I mean, this is one of those shows that I think is there's some great points to it. When Tim hops on, it makes for me. I enjoy when he pops up at once in a while. Like I said, I was very impressed. With me, I had a single response to what Mary Alice was doing, and he once again shows that he steps back, just slices it out.
That's why he's top. That's why he's top 25, man.
That's it. That's why he does top 25 because he slices it up and then says this is better than that. It's an option. And he once again. No, I thought we made some really. There's some really good points, and as always, I get a couple of good ideas.
The ratio of good to crap, I will agree, was different than our normal show.
See, we tipped the other way. We went on to the good side and less of the crap side. Really good points, yeah. So as always, I get a couple of good ideas. I idea of the brand and stuff, and I enjoyed our conversation with it, but I actually think there's some legs to it that as we start molding this. I mean, we talk about modern Radisson and so forth. I can't tell you. I don't know. Park Plaza. I couldn't tell you anything about it differently than any other hotel. Once there, I could probably point out what I think is different, but I couldn't if you just asked me about it because one, I haven't. If I ever remember staying in this, and two, it would have no recollection of its variances anyway. But that's the homogeneity that all consumers have right now. That it's not a brand. It's not a brand loyalty. It's not a brand identity. It's a location, rate, and amenities that are sustainable to
the GDS chain code.
Yeah, the GDS chain code. So to that end, it's like, okay, so what can create these identified brands? Now, independent hotels have a leg up because they have uniqueness to their identities that are, and because of that, it gives the chance that you can go over and say unique things about your property, but then you have the reverse of it, which is you can't have that sustainable interest because it's not going to occupy app space. It's not going to have residual return value because they would have to come back to the only one location or the destination in particular. So you don't have that ability to cross-sell and have multiple units unless you aggregate some sort of soft branding, which we know how that gets confused by the other brand.
See, you know what I'd like? I'd like someone, or I don't know, maybe Best Western because they're kind of forward-thinking. I'd like a brand to just come out and say what it is. Like, I would love to have like a Radisson Fancy Towels. You know what I'd like? I'd like someone instead of these weird names and you got to figure out where it is in the chain of desire. I'd like a brand. It's like Radisson and Take Your Wife Here on Anniversary. I would love to have like a Radisson. And then there's Radisson, You're Here to Sleep. I'd like something. Right? These weird names, and so you have where it is brand fundamentals. All of our hotels. It's like Radisson and Take Your Wife Safe, friendly, right? Core. And that's across no matter how much you spend.
And then we put in color TV, and
then there's Radisson, Impressure Parents on a safe friendly. And then there's Radisson. You've got to no matter how much you spend. Sorry. And then that would be fun. It would be honest. I think it would speak to the younger generation who are sensitive to BS. Sorry. Because I'm super sensitive to BS, and people younger than me are even more sensitive to BS. Like, it would be fun. I'd like it. Generation who are sensitive,
and maybe that will be a bit of the trend that goes towards where you get into this more candid or candor, a specific interest level branding to it. But again, going back to
that's why I liked. You know what? That's why I liked the Loft because they were like cheap sheet level
branding to it. But cool. And again, going back to again, I think it goes back to and I think you made the statement. Let's see if I can read it out loud. Branding to it, but again, going back to again, I think it goes back to compared to operant conditioning. Had the competition. It was brand loyalty more just like operant conditioning, because really it's risk reward. Okay, you represent this much value to me, so I'm willing to give you this much token operant conditioning, in the hopes that it incentivizes you to become more valuable to me, so that I go over redeem you for another token value of acknowledgement. And I think to what you just said about the marketing of individual hotels, even branded or not, if you can create the value proposition of the experience, more than you can about what you're trying to feature as a brand combination of name versus synonymous catchy phrase or something like that. Then you're really at that point addressing the interest at the time of the decision purchase, which we don't know whether it's business, personal, 3-year-old traveling or not, that will be the reason for the conversion. I mean, like, hey, you said if I travel with a 3-year-old,
hold on, I got it even better. Like, you're just a brand name with a number assignment, and the number assignment has like a definition. Like, you're just a brand name, and with a number, you don't buy in to be that number assignment. It's based on your quality. So I want to be a Marriott 4 because that's like a Ritz-Carlton. You don't buy in versus a Marriott 1, which is I don't know, whatever their lowest because that's like a brand is. And you can move annually based on like how you're rated as an overall organization. That would be amazing. That would be a brand I'd become loyal to because it would be like, oh man, for this trip I need a Marriott 4. That would be amazing because I like this is my getaway. But you know what? It's a business trip. Oh man, I want a Marriott 2. That would be.
Well, you know what? In strange ways, if there was a way to interpret the redemption, because obviously it exists in the loyalty programs already. You have redemption values. You know what? In strange ways, if there was a way to interpret so that you have to spend extra points to be at certain redemption hotels compared to others, so that the infrastructure is kind of already there. But going back to the advocacy aspect of this, and I think it's to your point, it's really the term advocacy, or activist, as it is identifying yourself in a way that people appreciate wanting to do business with. Where, if again, not as a marketing message, hey, we're the XYZ hotel because we give free shoes, but to say, hey, we're the XYZ hotel that have these locations and this and this. But in your engagement with them, you discover, and the reason why you like to keep engaged with them is that they do things like make tents for people that don't have homes, or shoes for people that don't have them, or something, or whatever it is, their methodology of success that they want to show that they're supporting community. Because I think to your generation, was it G? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, the ones coming up that are 22 now. So this girl's a
because I think is that they're going to identify, because just like you talked about the apps, taking them off because they don't make you look like you share your phone to somebody, or the aesthetics don't match you for self-persona.
Oh yes, travel is well known that or the aesthetics millennials care the most about their travel being an accessory to their life. And actually, there is a good percentage of each travel. Even baby boomers feel this way. There's a large swath of baby boomers that say that where they travel says something about who they are.
Right. And what they talk about in their travel experience. Oh, we stayed at such and such. Now some are like, we stayed in a pup tent because we're local. What they talk about in their travel experience. Oh, we stayed at such green. Now some are like people, or people like what the super happy, luxury, whatever it was. That's part of the story that they tell. Darlene, with that, we should definitely back up on this one. I mean, talk about storytelling or content generation. Luxury, whatever. So it is about the persona of the story that you tell. And I think if, in fact, you get to say, and we say that the XYZ hotel, they give free shoes away, that every time we buy a room, that they give shoes to people in such and such places. And so I think it becomes the story process, which creates the loyalty. That even if you spent free shoes to be there, that every time you get to tell that part of your stories. Yeah, I think in that sense, pretty cool stuff. The story process.
But I think everyone should remember it's always conditional loyalty.
Yes.
And loyalty to you as long as you fit into my needs.
And personas change. Oh, young people don't use Facebook. Yeah, they do eventually, because they eventually want to connect people that
as long as you
maybe at the time aren't, but now they are. And so then you follow the pattern of what platform people engage with. And some point that you made that I thought was excellent in the show was tailor your messaging to the platform you're using. It seems to be a lost art in digital platform people, where digital is all screaming all the time. And it's like, no, magazines, you had a certain space and a message capability.
Well, you know what it was? It's people got away with the crappy marketing behavior on these social channels because they were just growing at such a clip for so many years that just the growth alone, you got away with this stuff and it didn't hurt. But we're hitting a maturity point with a lot of these networks. And look at Facebook. So in this update I'm giving next week, I have a funny picture of Mark Zuckerberg, and and I'm calling out, this schemes and methods that you use to reach audiences in a less than savory way work anymore. But because of that, the baby got thrown out with the bathwater. Organic reach is gone on Facebook. Zuck got your number. Because of that, you know, and so gaming systems and ill-gotten gains in branding and marketing, like it's all short-term strategy. And listen, I talk to hotels all the time that they don't even have to explain to me what they did. I can tell by the way they're talking about their consumer engagement cycles that they are addicted to the schemes. They're just addicted to the schemes. But here's the thing, schemes get more expensive and less effective because they're not good. And so there's people actively working against the scheme. Instead, more expensive and less effective play because they're not, you know, you got to try things. And there's nothing wrong with accidentally being scheming because you're trying something that's completely new and you didn't know what the rules of engagement were. Like, so I'm not sitting here saying like don't do anything like that. But I'm saying like take some time and understand. You will get so much more value out of the things you do, and a lot of it is long-term value. But I'm saying you can build so much long-term value by just consistently trying to approach things with understanding of your audience and understanding of can you add value. Because if you start from there, then you're talking about building a great foundation that will reap rewards for well into the future. And you can see the companies that are that way. Because they don't talk the same talk that the average is talking.
They don't sound the same. They don't perceive the same. They seem to be in a categorization of their own because they are treating themselves the same. Right. Well, you know, again, we're left alone. Everybody left us. But it was nice to have everybody. And then the show notes, I mean, you see me run off and bang on that notes. There's been some really excellent points.
I do like when the whole party's here. The whole game brings a diversity.
The show notes, well, we missed Holly and Stuart. I mean, you know, although he had family reasons.
Oh, by the way, I called him and left him a voicemail the other day, and I just was being funny, and I'm like, "Hey, Stuart."
I mean, you know, although he had family reasons.
So he's like, Stubu is my gaming like name.
You're out of town, really? Stubu. Oh, I gotta use that.
Stubu. Ladies and gentlemen, so he's like Stubu. He's like
Stubu. No, Stuart. Yeah, he has to do this, and to no end. The podcast really has become.
Ladies and gentlemen, great things. He puts out a lot of good.
He has to do this, and to no end.
You know, and it's coming back. It's being good for him. Ladies and gentlemen,
I think he really is establishing the value proposition of what field travel can do, and it really.
By the way, so I was at the Navis conference last week. I mean, unless you have to go, I'd like to talk a little bit about it. Have you ever looked at their call center stuff?
Oh yeah, I was a big Navis fan for a long time, early on, but and the limitation that was always a frustration for me was this goes back a couple of years before they splintered it up. You had to get the whole thing or nothing. They didn't allow segmentation.
Yeah, you can now buy narrowcast alone.
Right, and it was always a frustration for me because it was such a mass. You had to commit whole thing or nothing of any hotel, or let alone.
You want to hear something awesome? So last week was always a frustration was their leader conference. It also happened to be they officially got their level 1 PCI certification. Last week, well, here's why that's interesting. It also happened, and you wouldn't think about this, but there are call centers out there too. Like that's where their core is. Like that's where I think they're more CRM than pretty much anyone else because they come from the perspective of the different channels. But there are call centers. Most CRMs are kind of one-dimensional. Like one's an email list manager, one's a group CRM. You know, like it's. But they got level 1 PCI certified while being able to keep recording email list manager. One's a group CRM. You know, like it's
really.
What happens when you record a call in a reservations call center? You record the credit card. So they've actually been able to get their recordings encompassed in the PCI certification, the credit card. So I asked them, I said, so what are your competitors doing? They all stopped doing call recording encompassed in the PCI certification because they took the time. It was hard. So I asked, it was really hard for them to get that figured out on how to do that.
Just security inscription requirements, storage for that stuff.
Because they think about how impressive that is. Think about how impressive that is. I was so excited for them to hear that. Because listen, it's an unintended consequence of PCI is you can't keep these recordings, which means you can't learn as fast as you do. You can't do things as well as you've done them on how you analyze the impact of your call center, right? Which means you can't learn as fast as you do. It's impressive, right? I was super lucky to them on that side.
Right? I was talking to somebody wasn't Navis. They were saying that they had to every day scrub their calls by omitting any transactional data off of the recordings, which is part of mandated recording. And they were doing a sniffer that was listening for number sequences in audio to literally blur it out. And that's the last time I ever heard anything about anybody trying to get a recording. And they were doing it on recording. So the fact that Navis can do that and retain the recordings is pretty impressive. And this also has encrypted block.
So that was the first really exciting thing that they had to talk about. The second is Narrowcast is now completely cloud.
And this also has that's good.
So that's very good. Call center solution is completely cloud now.
Wow, that's it.
You can have reservations working remotely.
Oh, that's good. Yeah,
that's very this product solution, which is fantastic cloud now.
Wow. But I remember, and this is fun stuff because I remember way back where part of the commitment to Navis was the hardware and expenditure that you had to build in your own system. Because you had to local farm your stuff.
Well, that's the thing. These are exciting developments. These are really exciting developments. They hired a great UX company to design the new experience on Narrowcast. These are exciting. The other thing they did is they built a full data repository of all sources of data for their clients. The other thing they did is they built so now their enterprise all sources of data. The one that I loved the most was how much each individual employee is making or costing the organization. And then you can drill in to the data to see what's making that up over periods of time. And it will tell you this person didn't ask for the sale over 46 interactions, where this person who's at $600,000 in value. And it will tell you and so they were showing, they scrubbed it so you couldn't tell what client it was, but they were using real client data, and they had an employee that was almost $1 million negative impact on the business. And so they were showing, they scrubbed it so you couldn't tell what client
this is helping me with the client
data, and they had an employee that was almost $1 million. So are you ready for what I did? So the other thing they show is, so they also do bulk email stuff. So I was asking them about what kind of data was behind this, and it's really high quality data. For what I did? So the other thing, so I asked them, I said, so can you trace back to when someone became unengaged? To a specific, what was the last email they engaged with? And then did they ever engage again? And they said, absolutely. So I asked them, I said, so can you start putting that as a quantifiable impact to every campaign? I said, you can look backwards and know that the last time they ever touched you was this, that's the campaign that burned the relationship. Even if they didn't unsubscribe. So can you start putting a negative aspect on these revenue reports that says, yes, this campaign registered $130,000 in new sales, but burned $25,000 worth of database value. This campaign registered.
Now, would that be calculated on the lifetime value of that individual interaction, or just that one event itself?
If the person completely disappeared, so you would have to. To do it right, you'd have to allow campaigns to continue before you can go back and rate a campaign. But you wouldn't have to go too far. If this is a person who, on average, engaged with an email that you sent once a month, okay, and then all of a sudden they just stopped. Well, what's the last one they touched? That's the campaign with an email that you sent once a month, okay, and then all of a sudden, pretty interesting, right? So they actually said they can do it. So now they're looking into how do you quantify quantify it? How do you measure it? And how do you help people understand that yes, there is an upside to these email blasts, but there is a downside. Like,
well, yeah, we've always had that on the burn list. I mean, you always talk about
but they can show it to an exact number, and then they can apply a value. But there is a downside. Like,
well, yeah, I would also put that on the burn list. I mean, I would almost, just not to be morbid, I would actually put a morbidity table on there as well, just because sometimes it's not due to lack of interest.
I would also but you can actually. But here's the thing: you can adjust for that. That's an algorithm.
Right. Yeah, it is. It's a morbidity table.
Yeah. So I mean, but. So they've got some cool stuff happening. Their data layer is so exciting. So they're actually going to open it up to their partners. So I mean, but so that means we're going to be able to start building stuff that takes advantage of Navis. So they're actually going to if you're a Navis customer or you're using them in your call center, stuff like that, we'll be able to build stuff where you know what, our campaigns can now lead people to the call center, and you'll be able to track it, and your call center agents will be able to do something. We'll be able to feed them data, so when someone calls in that previously was an advocate, you can start with thank you. They really have done a lot of really neat things. We'll be able to feed them data.
And I'm going to ask you more questions about this. I said, when the client, I actually have Navis availability that they use extensively, so I want to get up to speed on some of the new stuff, especially if that's what we've done, and that they need to start leveraging it. So that's good stuff.
Pretty exciting stuff.
Pretty exciting stuff. Mr. Ed, as always, thank you. The show, because it was, really a lot of fun. Like I said, I was really, for some reason, we're just keying in on some really good statements and content and perspectives. I think the show notes are really going to reflect. At least I hope so. Really a lot of fun. Like I said, I was really type in. I actually have to go back to 2 times that you were talking. I couldn't type fast enough, and I actually have to ask you to go back here and type notes. So I have to go back to a couple of points and fill in some of the notes where I posed. Mr. Ed, if people want to find you or Flip2, where is the
I'll be in Myrtle Beach next week, speaking at the Myrtle Beach Chamber's annual marketing. But if you're not going to be there, you can find me on social media as Edward St. Ange. And you can find out about Flip2 by going to flip2. But if you're not going to be there, and Mr. Loring Gray, if people want to find you, where should they?
On the sidewalk. Usually on the sidewalk. At least was for one night. They can go to Hospitality Digital Marketing.
Mr. Loring Gray,
it's a very short
people want to
it's so easy to type. On the sidewalk. No /live if you want to go over and get to any of the archive links to the previous show, including the show, as well as show notes, and a replay of the show, which I edit it by putting an intro, if you want to go third bars, and then if you ever want to watch the tail end, because I get humorous or attempted humor anyway, on the closing credits of the show, where I put in things like, if you ever want to watch the tail end, because I put in some stuff and it's like, thanks Mr. Ed for such a great dialogue, or we didn't have ran out of time for you this week or something. I try to throw all that stuff at the closing report. But anyway, you can see that all the archives and shows for that. We will be on show number 136 next week, and we are building up a guest list roster of people. We want to get, of course, you gave a great recommendation, being Dan Waxman back, who did it. And we are building up a guest list to get him back onto the show. He's been a previous people. We want to get also too. We have we're going to get Neil now that he's on his own, and I just spent some time with him in Washington D.C. and he's really got some great insights on ancillary revenue generation for hotels, for the food and beverage, golf, and so forth. Really great insight stuff that I hope you can share with us. Then there's also I'm drawing a blank, but there's a third from for hotels for the food. We talked to him at HSMAI. He walked by, he couldn't join us for the show, but wants to see him join us. I think I blind CC earlier on the email that I sent back.
Oh, from Screen Pilot.
Screen Pilot, thank you. Screen Pilot, yes. Yeah,
good people.
So we're hopefully get them on. So we're going to have some interesting guest co-hosts coming up. I've got a wicked amount of travel coming up in April, which is going to be interesting. But hopefully with the guest hosts coming through and so forth, we'll have some fun. So we're hopefully get them on. So we're going to have some interesting. To everyone that watched the show, show live or recorded for us, which it is so fun. And this is my closing note. So I go over and I have the privilege of speaking with Two Road Hospitality. To everyone that watched the show live, and for people to come up and be like, "Hey, I watched your show that you guys did this." So I go over and I have the privilege. Seriously, that is so cool. That is so cool that people come up and say, a lot of them, ironically, they listen rather than watch, which is good.
That's really good, because that also means that they're actually getting work done.
That is so cool. Yeah, they're getting, and they do. I had 3 people, ironically, how they have it in the background, that they either play it live or will go back to the recording and play it in the background, because they love listening to the dialogue and the rabbit holes we go down. So it was kind of fun to have people come and know you from the show. Like, listen to your show, it's great. It's like, why aren't you joining us? No. You guys, I probably couldn't get a word in. I'm like, yeah, that's the problem. It was kind of fun to have people come and know you from the show. But anyway.